And now a word from our sponsors. Tenebris Press is the home of new weird horror. Their latest release, One Hand to Hold, One Hand to Carve by M. Shaw, is a surreal body horror tale of two halves of a human cadaver who awaken in the morgue with no memory of their previous life as a single body, but with very different notions of what they want out of their new lease of life. For more information, visit www.tenebrispress.com.
Hey everybody, Tom Deedy here, Bram Stoker Award-winning author of Haven. Just like to invite everyone to come by and see me at the Ghoulish Book Festival in San Antonio, Texas on April 30th and May 1st. I will be sitting in on a couple panels, doing some readings, and it should be a great time. If you can't make it, check me out at tomdeedy.com. Thanks.
How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of my podcast, Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, an undead host, and on today's program I am speaking to Gerardo Preciado about imaginary film movie soundtracks because that's what he makes. He makes soundtracks to spooky movies that do not exist. And they're super fucking good. I love this guy's music. I can't wait to share my conversation with him, with you. I think you're going to love the conversation. I know you're going to love his music, so definitely check it out. I will have links in the show notes. Go look him up. He's making great music. I think you will like it. My new novel, Maggot Screaming, it's coming out next week as well. You can go pick up a copy at Ghoulish Books. Comes out April 12th. So, I'm pretty satisfied with that book, and I think you should check it out. Yeah. And that's pretty much all I have. I mean, you heard the advertisements in the beginning of the episode. We have some sponsors now. They are folks who have sponsored the Ghoulish Book Festival happening at the end of this month, the end of April 2022, in downtown San Antonio, Texas. It is a fest myself and my partner, Lori Michelle, are running. And it's coming up pretty fucking soon. And that was my stomach that just growled. I guess I must be hungry, or maybe it's stress. Maybe it's both. Either way, I'm going to let you go now so you can listen to my conversation about horror movie soundtracks that don't fucking exist. So I've spent pretty much all day listening to your music, and it's not the only time I've listened to your music. The little mutual friend Miguel, he sent me a Spotify link to your music several months ago. I think it was before he even had you on his show, maybe. And I've been listening to it off and on infrequently. I find it's really good music to create, like writing while listening to. It's a good, I love to have music playing as I write. And the music you make is like the best type of music for creativity, I think. Any type of film soundtrack is what I love to listen to. And the type of soundtracks you are creating are like perfect for what I want to listen to. And I don't know if you have a big fan base yet with full music, but if not, holy crap, man, people are missing out.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for saying that. I don't know if you know this, but I am a writer as well. I write so far mainly comic books and some short films I've made with my brother. But it's funny you say that because when I do these soundtracks, I try to actually imagine a film. So if most of the time the music that you hear on films is kind of, I'm conscious that it's not supposed to be like something that's too loud or take you away from the dialogue and stuff like that. So it tends to be more atmospheric and stuff. And so it's nice to hear that you can concentrate on writing or something, because they're not designed to be like a song, right? That had like a chorus and a hook and stuff like that. And there's some stuff that I've done that's more like that. That's more like a song structure. But mainly I try to do that atmospheric drony thing that plays in the background, that's kind of a little bit more emotional. So and I wish I could hear music when I'm writing, but I can't hear anything when I write. So I envy you a lot that you can hear music, because I I, I don't know why, but I guess it takes me to another place.
Do you think it's because you're also a musician? Like, I'm not a musician,
Probably,
so it doesn't
probably,
affect me.
right.
Like
May,
something that happens with me when I read a book, and most likely with you too, because you also write, is I often analyze like the structure of a book, and I try to think about how that writer maybe came to the decisions in the plot. So maybe with musicians, like, do you also begin analyzing how they made the song?
yeah, well, I like you said, when you read and you can see how they, or imagine how they were doing it. That's what with me. I don't know. I guess the way it's easier for me if I had like the music for the film I'm writing, you know, because they're kind of different stories. If you listen to another song, to me, that's it's like I said, I envy you. I wish I could do that. It would have to be maybe like something that's so atmospheric that I almost forgot is there, like white noise, so I could write to it. Because I don't know. We can talk about the process and stuff, but yes, to me the process of writing is almost like not thinking and hearing music and structures, or a sound that I like takes me away from the right. So again, I wish I could do that, and I hope. I mean, I think but I love that you said that I hope someone puts up that music and can create another story with it. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm, like you said, the opposite when it comes to writing, because for me, having music on is a way to drown out any other distractions, because I am so easily distracted by most noises. But like, say, music, for example, it's a predicted sound. You know what you're going to hear mostly. So it's nice to have that going. And then you don't have like construction outside, or a phone notification behind you, or a dog going crazy. You just have the music and the screen in front of you, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I have to, when I'm writing, like last year I released a soundtrack that's called My Little Slasher, and with that one I wrote the screenplay for the film, because I wanted to push the, like, every year try to make something a little bigger, and for to be able to write the screenplay, I had to get up like at 4:30 a.m. every day for like 2 months, because exactly what you said, like I have to be in a place where there's no noise. So it's like a curse to me. So I wish I don't know, I'm gonna, maybe you can recommend some music other than mine that can help me.
My favorite music to listen to besides Yields is stuff like what John Kelpenel's making, and like the It Follows soundtrack is like one of the best, I feel. I was going to ask you if you ever gave thought to writing the screenplays to these soundtracks, but you just said you have. Is that the only screenplay you've written?
It's not the only screenplay, but because I also like write comic books, right? And so to me, like I write songs. Like I have a band, and I have another artist. I don't know if you know this, but I am myself. I'm different artists, and sometimes they collaborate with each other. And for instance, the Ancient Order of the Droids collaborate with another artist, and they make like Halloween songs, Halloween spooky songs. And but yeah, I guess when I'm writing a comic book, it's different than writing like a screenplay. It's And so I wanted to be able to, like, how do I put this, like, to, I guess in some ways writing a comic book, I rely on the artist maybe to make me look better or smarter, and on the screenplay it's all on me. I can't blame anybody else. But so I took that chance, and wrote. I have written a screenplay based on a comic book because there was some interest in that property.
Well,
And
let's talk about My Little Slasher specifically. So you
yeah.
write a screenplay before doing the music, right?
Excuse me.
You wrote the screenplay before attempting the music, right?
Yeah, I think it was kind of the same time,
Okay.
but basically, yeah, the story came first.
Yeah.
Let's say like any of my soundtracks, I don't write the screenplay, but I do know the story, like the basic plot line. So I have to come up with, oh, this story is about a killer, and there's
Yeah.
a girl who goes to the library, and then the killer, blah blah blah, and the ending is this.
Yeah.
So I have like a basic plot, but for this one, yeah, I wrote the screenplay first because this was actually, I think you said, do you have like a big fan base? I think I don't have a big fan base because I changed from soundtrack to soundtrack the style and everything, and some have been more successful than others because of that, because the, let's say, Terrore was more inspired like from John Carpenter's music, and there's like a big niche that likes that. And then I made another one that's Zombiria is called, that's more rock oriented, like cheesy rock, synth rock, and that one did very well. But then I did My Little Slasher, which I tried to bring a little bit of the John Williams strings and stuff, and that didn't do so well, because I keep changing directions. But that's what makes it fun, and that what makes, I couldn't do the same thing again. I don't know about you, like, you have to keep changing lanes so that you can come up with ideas. And the story about for My Little Slasher, I had for years. This is more like an ET movie. Like I was watching films with my son. I don't know if you've seen the Airbud
Yeah,
franchise. It is
I
a
have.
golden retriever who plays basketball, and so there's like, okay, the classic trope of the boy with a dog, right? Oh, ET. And so I said, okay, what about if a child befriends like Jason Voorhees, and he's not a bad guy. It's a whole story, right? But that's where the idea came from, and I said, okay, what if I can combine like the electronics of John Carpenter's music with some strings like John Williams' music, and the story is that, and then you it's kind of at the same time you know what the scenes are gonna be like. I need a moment where they say goodbye and they cry, and I need this and that moment, right? And that's how the soundtrack came to be also at kind of more or less at the same time. But what what was really cool about that soundtrack, especially, was that we recorded the song that plays on the closing credits of the movie, and it's like the screenplay is based on 1989. So wrote like a power ballad, like a hair metal power ballad, Skid Row type of thing, and we hired a singer from the UK, and it sounded incredible.
It does.
So
I just listened to that album like before we talked. I think it's probably my favorite one that I've listened to by you. That, and I can't recall the exact name, but it's like a Scooby-Doo type of album. It has spaghetti in the title.
yeah, Scary Spaghetti Spooky Hour.
Yeah, yes, that one's really funny to me. It's so fun. But My Little Slashel is probably the one I have responded to the most. I love it.
Well, I would be very interested if you checking out a little bit of the story.
I would love to read it. Yeah. Please send it to me after we're done. That would be awesome. I'm curious because with a movie, typically the music is one of the last things to come, right? But in this case, you will creating these soundtracks to movies that don't exist, and you have the stories in mind. So I'm curious, does the project for you end with the album, or do you also have aspirations of one day taking these albums and then turning them into actual movies, or do they just stay as imaginary movies?
I have thought about it. I haven't talked to anyone about this, but the first album I've made is called Terrore, which is kind of like like a ripoff of the Halloween movies, if an Italian made it. All of these imaginary films in my head, most of them are really bad knockoff movies, like they're not great movies. And I toyed with the idea of writing the screenplay for those movies, but I think that I would like to make a Terror movie. I would love to make that movie, but I don't know. Like I'm very much like looking forward to the next one, the next one, and the next one. And so with my little slasher, that was my way of doing something bigger. And this year, what I want to do is make the soundtrack, but make an actual movie this time, like a low budget video, shot on video, weird, very super weird. So that's the idea, to keep pushing forward. But yes, I would love to do like I don't know if you heard the Zombiria album. That's the story of a zombie Jesus that comes to life. Like there's the story is basically that like the humanity is in or the humans are in a city that's walled, that's protected from the zombies, but the people in that city are really toxic and really bad people. So the zombies are the good guys, and they just want to share, they just want. And I would love to turn that into a graphic novel sometime.
That would be pretty awesome.
Because that's like too much to too much of a budget,
Yeah. Speaking of budgets, I was reading, you have a Medium blog, and I was reading the posts you have on there. You mentioned I don't know if you still do this, but in the beginning of these imaginary soundtracks, you will coming up with like the budget of the movie.
Right. Well, yeah, like I said, it's because they're supposed to be bad. Not, I don't like. I'm not one of those people that likes to say that a movie is so bad that it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy. When I'm talking to people, you kind of get used to saying things like that, but I don't feel that way. Like
Same.
So how I look at it, because we've been making short films since we were children, that when you make something and you don't have a budget, you come up with a creative way. And sometimes when I see these Italian directors that didn't have a budget, but they have to make a movie like Aliens, or they have to make a movie, like Terminator, and they don't have the budget, they have to come up with a creative way to do it. So I don't make fun of them in that way. Like I'm not above them. I do have fun with them. And that's I guess when I it's not that I imagine not only like the budget, but what type of director. Oh, this director does not care at all. This soundtrack is or for instance, I made a prequel to Terror. It's called Il Maniaco, which in my mind is a movie that was shot in the 70s and just was retitled Terrore Il Maniaco, but it wasn't even part of the franchise. And that soundtrack especially is special for me because it's kind of almost noise. Like I put on a disclaimer that this soundtrack is not made for human consumption because it's supposed to be like a weird experimental album, and some people actually like that one, which is very surprising. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
I,
so fucking cool. It's like the amount of thought you've put into like the backgrounds of these imaginary movies. It's just like as a fan of like what the music you were putting out, it just makes it so much more exciting. Like have you like it's a little I didn't do a ton of research ahead of time, but do you have like a website or do you release like booklets of these imaginary movies, like talking about the behind the scenes info, like the stuff you were telling me now?
well, it's first of all, you said that you read my articles on Medium. I just
Mhm.
started writing stuff, and because I realized like I have to put down those ideas. So
Yeah.
I think that you give me a great idea of writing about these things somewhere, right? So
Yeah.
because there's no other way for someone to know all of this stuff that we talk, because I just maybe post oh, the album is out on Twitter or whatever, and I
Yeah.
might say a little bit about what is this about, right? But there's not a place where you can hear like, okay, this the whole story, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's a great idea. Maybe I could do that.
And for those listening, I will have a link to his blog in the show notes of the podcast. So definitely click it and check it out. It's a lot of fascinating stuff. Like there's also a piece you wrote about how making alt is your religion. Maybe you could talk a bit about that.
Well, yeah, it's funny because to me, like I've been doing. I was thinking in the ancient order of the droids. This is the 10th year I've been releasing music with that artist, and time flies, right? It's so fast, and I guess that yeah, to me, like making music or writing is I don't want to be too pretentious, but it is kind of a spiritual thing, like a letting go of yourself and stuff. And it kind of I see like it kind of guides you where the music tells you where you have to go, what you have to do with it. And yeah, that in that article I said that if God created humans in his own image, then you have to create in your own image. But I was talking more about just you have to be true to yourself and express yourself rather than try to imitate. And so the process for me, that was I was talking about, is that I have like to clear my mind completely. So when I write this is another thing I don't think I ever talk about, is I wake up maybe at 5 a.m. or whatever, and I write something. And I'm talking about music, right? So I write a riff or a piece, or sometimes I can finish the piece. And then I do, let's say I'm writing a new Terror album. I have a set of rules for that album, which is I'm only gonna use these instruments. Sometimes it's guitar, sometimes there's no guitar, sometimes there's bass, sometimes there's no bass, strings, or these types of sounds or whatever. So I have a set of rules. Then I wake up very early when I'm not conscious, and I record a track or whatever. And I do this for like 2 weeks, and then I listen back, and it's like I'm listening to someone else's music because I have no recollection of actually recording it because I was almost asleep. And so that's how I put together the albums. I put the rules and I record them. So it's kind of like it sounds it's not like, oh, I didn't do this, the spirits did this or anything like that, but is subconscious, and I know that it's not because I'm special or talented in any way. It's because you open yourself to something happening through you, and then you kind of sort it out afterwards. And that's why, yeah. No, yeah, and in the case of writing, like you're a true writer, right? It takes for me to have to be able to. You can't be completely unconscious when you're writing like a dialogue and stuff. You can't do. But I do have that process of writing without thinking what I'm writing about, and then as I'm waking up, I can sort of sort things, and then and then make it better as it goes along. But that process of just not thinking what you're writing and just vomiting ideas, that's like the best thing. That's the purest thing, and that's why, to me, kind of it's not that writing instrumental music is better than writing music with words, or the writing music is better than writing a screenplay, but it's more pure in a way because I'm not thinking. And when I'm putting words to feelings, this is never gonna be exactly the feeling. So and I'm very conscious with my stories, like the comic book screenplays or whatever I'm writing. It's more about feelings. It always is about feelings. It's not about. That's why I'm not like very good at writing like a team comic book like the X-Men or something, because I have to know like six characters are doing things at the same time, and I'm more about like one character is going through something, and how that character sees the world and feels it. That's kind of like how I write.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
So we'll say I've certainly written prose during a similar state of what you were describing. I know some writers also do this. It's I believe you pronounce the word hypnagogic, and that's when you were writing like on the verge of being so sleepy you can't really concentrate on anything. And that's when you let that subconscious just write like at the most free, like the freest possible way your mind could ever create art. I highly recommend it for anyone interested in creating anything, is to try working on something as soon as you wake up, or when you will like 3 hours past the usual time you go to bed. It's the best. And sometimes you just create nonsense, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you go back and you look at it and you go, what the hell was I thinking? But not all the time.
but I feel really like not confidence in an arrogant way. I guess when you do things enough or for a long time, like when I was making like my first album, I was really worried that I had like 8 songs, and what am I gonna do when I record those 8 songs? Like, are there ever gonna be more songs? Like I thought I didn't. I was scared that I would not be able to come up with more music, and now I know that if I wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna. I don't know what song or what type of song, but I know that I'm gonna record something, and later maybe that's gonna be useful or not, but I don't have like an anxiety of am I gonna have an idea or not. I don't know if it's gonna be a good. I actually don't think there are bad ideas or bad pieces of music. Sometimes a piece of music or idea is just not right for the project you're doing. But I save stuff that maybe down the line becomes useful, like a scene or something. Sometimes I want this to happen in the story, but it doesn't make sense, but it's still a cool image. Okay, it doesn't make sense here, but maybe down the line in some other story it does make sense. So that's the same with music.
Let's talk about some of the comic books you write. I know you have some already out, correct?
Yeah.
So what type of comics are you writing? I don't know anything about your comics.
So that's actually the when I was a child, like an 8-year-old child, all I wanted to be was a comic book artist. Like I grew up reading the X-Men, and that was it, right? And so music came later, and actually we started making films as teens, like with a video camera. But so I wanted to be an artist, a comic book writer, artist, and but I sucked. And then I met Daniel Baylis, who is like my best friend, and he does he's done the cover artwork for Terrore, My Little Slasher, Zombidia, Giallo.
I was going to ask you about the cover of those albums because they look
Yeah,
just fantastic. I mean,
yeah,
they should be postals that I can hang in my house.
yeah. I actually tell him that when I do the Kickstarter, for the I press them on vinyl, some of them,
Mhm.
not all of them, some of them. I said, the people buy this for the artwork, so this
Yeah.
is because like I wish I could afford to buy more vinyl records, but
Yeah.
it's so beautiful to have this big artwork, even if the music was horrible.
Yeah.
Still the art, I'm such a fan of the artwork, right? So anyways, we met when we were teens, and we started making right away. We started making comic books, like from in college, like nothing that we released anywhere. But like 10 years ago, or maybe a little more, I said, we have to do something. And we always, this is, maybe you can relate to this, or maybe you can agree that this is a good advice, that we have the problem that many people have, which is we're gonna do this, like in our case, a graphic novel that was super epic, and we never finish it. We never, because it's such a large task.
Yeah.
It's too much, and that's why for many years we didn't release anything. So like the best idea I ever had was, let's make a 3-page comic book instead of a 100-page comic book. And so we started making those, and we made a blog that's called Moonhead Press, where we published those stories, those short stories. And actually I wrote and he illustrated a Batman story that we just published, because I have no intention, like I'm not really interested in writing like mainstream characters. So a friend said, hey, another friend, it is very strange because I have another friend that turns out to be professional artist too. So I'm very lucky to have these people, randomly in my life. And anyway, that Batman story became huge, like viral, like millions of views, like interviews and stuff, because to me it was like a punk rock thing, like, oh, let's just do this very violent thing, and then the Joker and Batman kill each other and stuff, and like very very meta. Like it was made like in a fun, it wasn't made to be like taken seriously, and it was taken seriously. And so actually, Daniel, my friend, got a job. He's now been like 8 or 9 years doing comic books for Boom Studios professionally.
Wow,
From
because of
that,
that Batman comic?
yeah.
Wow.
And so we made several stories there, and I actually made another like indie web comics publisher, let's call it, with another friend, and have like one of the, probably one of the stories that is most special for me is called Sicario, with a PSIY, like Sicario.
Oh, yeah.
And that one is kind of, it's been it's funny because I made that comic book with my teacher, who's like, this is a guy who's a guy. He's my friend also. No? He's like 20 years older, 15 years older, and he teach me art in college. And years later, we made a comic book together, and that one is a favorite of mine. It's called Sakari. That publisher is called All Skull Comics.
Okay. How
Yeah.
did this arrangement happen? Like, did you just keep in touch with this teacher throughout the yields, or did you just run into him one day and you just decided, hey, let's make a comic?
Yeah, well, I did keep a little bit of touch, but he lived in another city. He came to live in my city again, and he
Mhm.
was like, let's do something together. And I actually was like, oh no, I never worked with him. I only worked with my best friend,
Mhm.
And so I was like, no, I've never told this anywhere else of it. I was like, I'm gonna give this throwaway idea that I have, like the worst idea that I have. Because if this, and in my defense, like I've had like artists that I want to collaborate with something, and then they disappear. I do all
Yeah.
this work, and so I was worried that if this doesn't become anything, it's not gonna hurt me. That's what I'm. So I give them one. Wow, it's like and actually it turned out to be a really cool story, and we're doing part two. And he's also like a machine, like an artist can do like a professional artist can do like one page of
Mhm.
a day, like on pencils and stuff. And he sometimes doesn't sleep and does like 5 pages in a day. Like he's
Holy
like,
shit! Wow.
and so the Sicario, the first one, the first graphic novel was more than 100 pages.
Mhm.
We're way past the 100 pages for part two, and we
Oh.
made some prequels and stuff. So yeah, that's one that I'm really proud of because it's funny because like as a writer, different artists bring out a different side of you. I don't know if
Yeah.
you like it inspires you to do something different. I'm very much like yeah. I try to meet them like halfway, and
Mhm.
I need them to bring their own stuff so that it becomes special to them. To us, I'm not one.
Right.
I'm not a like you know for instance, those two guys, like the Sicario artist called Abram Katase and Daniel Dailies, who is my best friend. I don't write screenplays for them, the scripts for the comic books. We just talk on the phone like for 2 hours. This is what's gonna happen, and then they send me the pages, and I write the dialogue and stuff. That's called the Marvel way. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I
That
haven't. That sounds pretty unique and sounds
well,
fun.
that was the way that Stanley wrote all of those comic books back in the day. Like Jack Kirby came into the office and okay, so this week Spider-Man is
Huh.
or the Fantastic Four are fighting this villain, and he went away. He came back with the pages.
Wow. I had no idea. That's
But
pretty cool.
yeah, but there are some artists who, hey, no, I need the
Yeah.
complete. Like they feel like I'm cheating if I don't give them like the complete panel by panel breakdown, and that's
Yeah.
cool as well. My
Do
my main
you do you have a preference?
I think that for what inspires the artist the most, that's the way.
Mhm.
Like I feel almost like like in the comic book world, like I'm the writer, they are the artist. Like the artist is more like a pregnant mother. Like you have to be like a parent, you are like a father, you have to support them whatever
Yeah.
they need, whatever, because they are the ones who are going through it day by day. Like
Yeah.
you especially when I do this the Marvel way, which is just talk about it. And sometimes when we meet in person, in that meeting we'll do the layouts, this
Mhm.
sort of like the panel breakdown. So yeah, whatever the mother needs,
Yeah. That's really funny. Is there anything else about these imaginary soundtracks you wanted to discuss before we wrap things up?
well, no, essentially that I'm always trying to do more.
Yeah.
Like this year, I'm releasing like 7 of them. Last year, I think I released 7 of them also,
Wow. Okay.
which is talks more about my mental health than anything else. That you
Well,
need to pull down,
yeah.
and this year I'm hoping to do again. What's the next step? And maybe I hope the next step is to make an actual low budget. I don't know if, the I don't want to say what the movie's about, but it's gonna
Yeah.
be super weird, super low budget, and something that you know when I do I'm a big fan of collecting. I know that I can collect, I wish I have money to collect a lot of stuff, but they I don't know if you know about, like, there's like boutique Blu-ray labels
Oh
that
yeah,
is restored,
like
uh,
Vinegal syndrome, and yeah,
exactly, in
yeah.
Fevering, yeah. And what I love about them is that they come out with, we're going to release this film, and I didn't know that it existed, that film, and the artwork and stuff. And so what I do with my soundtracks is I wish that someone finds out and think that they were real. Like, how I didn't know that this movie. How do I not know? And I actually and what I did with Sambiria, this last story, I promise.
No, please go on. This is
What I did
interesting.
with Sambiria is that I don't know if the Dawn of the Dead film was released as Zombie in Italy, and so in
Mhm.
Italy they made the zombie film, the Lucio Fulci film. They called it Zombie 2, and
Yeah.
in America it was called Zombie, and then they made some Zombie 3. But if you look at it in a way, Zombie 1 and 2 are actually the same film, because sometimes in the international it had a different title. And so what I did was I released Zombiria, and Zombiria 2 are the same album, because I want people who, I mean, Zombiria 2, because it's the international version, has more scenes, like gory
Uh-huh.
scenes. And I'm talking about the music, which is silly, right?
Yeah,
But
it's so cool. I love
but
it.
what I wanted is for somebody to hear Zombiria, and I can't wait to hear part two, and hear part two and say, oh my God, is the same as part one. To be disappointed, like
Yeah,
I'm disappointed as a horror fan when you rent a movie that you've seen before, that you just change the poster.
yeah.
So I do everything I can to alienate my audience.
I love it. I love it. I love the idea of like people listening to some of these albums and then spending the rest of the day trying to find that movie, only to eventually realize, oh, I've been tricked.
Yeah.
Maybe it inspires them to go make that movie, though.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. Um, I know you also did the soundtrack for a documentary recently, right?
Yes.
Tell me
Well,
about that.
yeah. Oh, thank you for asking, because I think like I said, I started Ancient Order of the Droids to make music for films, and I very quickly realized that no one is going to ask you to make music for their film. So that's when I decided, okay, nobody wants my music from, like, I'm that way, like I'm okay. So I'm gonna make my own film in my head. And then when the opportunity, like my brother wanted to do something, a documentary about VHS culture, that's when I saw like my opening, like, so I helped him finish the come up with stuff to make the film. So I'm a producer on that, but my brother is a director, and I had to come up with a lot of music. Like, this was the first time that I was actually, and it's funny because the soundtrack for Cult of VHS is more like, it sounds more like songs, because he wanted like the feeling, like the new synthwave stuff that's coming out. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of almost, I think, maybe my best sounding or best produced album. But yeah, the whole idea is like, my idea was, if I have to make the movie myself, just in order to have the soundtrack, I'm gonna make. I'm sorry for my dogs.
It's okay. It's okay.
They rarely bark. But again, if I have to make the film myself, I'm gonna make the film just so I can have an actual soundtrack. But again, I just had a really cool idea for a film that I can do myself.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm really excited about this year. So
That's exciting. I can't wait to to discover more about this once you get down into the trenches of it all.
yeah,
I want to read that screenplay too for my little
yeah, of
slashel.
course.
That-
Yes,
That's
I
really
will be
interesting.
really interested in what you hear, because you are like a real writer. And
So
I'm
will
actually,
you. Come
no,
on.
yeah, but I think of myself like, not like, if I were in a table with musicians, I
Mhm.
don't feel like, I'm a musician with the other musicians. Like, I'm not a technician and anything. and in writing, I probably has a maybe, I don't know, like some technical issues, I suppose, but I care more like about the personality of the story, that it resonates with what I'm trying to say and stuff. So I'm very curious if that translates, if the music translates to the story, or I will be very curious to hear your opinion.
I will let you know. My dogs have also began going nuts, so it's
Yeah.
just dog time, I guess. To wrap things up, how can people find you online?
Well, it's I don't know if I'm able to spell Música di Diable, but I'm as Música di Diable in Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and all that.
Okay. I will also link it in the show notes of the podcast as well.
Oh, okay.
All right. Any closing statements you want to make?
Well, just want to say that I had a great time talking to you.
Me too.
I don't know why I was nervous, but I was nervous because I don't know. You don't know how.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm nervous every time I do one of these. It's just I have a lot of anxiety, I guess, with talking to anybody. So I always have that nervousness going into any episode. Yeah, this has been a blast. I've had a lot of fun talking to you, and it's been awesome just discovering all this background information about these albums, because now I'm excited to go back and listen to them again with this stuff in mind. It's going to make the experience so much more fun.
You're wearing a Texas Chainsaw t-shirt?
I am.
Have you seen the latest one?
No, I haven't. Have you?
No, I'm waiting for Miguel to see it so I can give my opinion. So I'm now waiting on you to.
Okay. I don't even have Netflix at the moment, so it's going to be a while.
My favorite horror film is Texas Chainsaw, the original.
Mine too. Yeah, same. If you ever come to Texas and by Austin, Miguel and I live. I live in San Antonio. He lives in Austin. Both cities are pretty close. So there's a small section of land. It's like a small town. I think it's called Bastrop, maybe. And the original gas station where they filmed in the movie, it still exists. And you can go to it, and it's now a shop. This is where I bought the t-shirt from. They just sell like spooky stuff. It's really cool. And they even sell chili. Like they have a guy making chili. Like Miguel and I, we went to it and we ate chili at the gas station. That's what it's called. It's just called the gas station.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I have to go there with you guys.
We will make a day of it. It will be a ton of fun.
And thank you to our sponsors, Tom Deedy, author of Haven and the Clearing, Tenebris Press, an independent publisher of new weird horror from diverse and unsung voices around the world, Bucket of Blood Books and Records, Chicago's premier destination for new and used horror books and movies, Witty Books, an independent bookstore in Tulsa, Oklahoma, specializing in speculative fiction, small press titles, all things spooky. Find them online at wittybooks.com. My Horror Confessional, a horror movie podcast, Nightworms, a horror subscription service, Horror DNA, a horror website, Vic Carey, author of Thorazine Dreams, and Nightfire, publisher of books for the dead, the living, and everyone in between. Nightfire is the new horror imprint from the folks at Tor Books.
Live spooky, die spooky.
Rest in peace, Mac.